We're here to stimulate your mind and elevate your creativity. And today's speaker will definitely do that.
Have you ever wondered what the legal do's and don'ts are when you post something on a social media site such as Facebook or Twitter? That's what we'll be talking about today. If you've ever wondered about this, and even if you haven't, you need to keep listening. Do you know why, Russ?
Yes, I do, because today we have Ruth Carter, attorney at law. She is the author of The Legal Side of Blogging, How Not to Get Sued, Fired, Arrested, or Killed.
That's a good thing.
That is. The Legal Side of Blogging for Lawyers and Flash Mob Law. Ruth was named one of Phoenix Business Journal's 40 Under 40 in 2013. Among other things, her practice focuses on social media law.
Ruth Carter will be with us live for the full hour. She'll answer our questions as well as yours. Next on Russ on the Radio.
Full disclosure today, Ruth is my intellectual property attorney and is here to discuss the legal do's and don'ts of using social media. Welcome, Ruth.
Hello, Russ. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Glad to have you. This is so top. I can't believe we have you on here.
You need to make a disclaimer before we begin, right?
Yes, I do. Every time I do a radio show or any type of talk, I have to make this disclaimer. I am an attorney. However, I am not any listener's attorney. So today I'm here to provide general legal information. Nothing that I say should be interpreted as a substitute for legal advice. If anyone needs legal advice, they should call an attorney in their community.
Well, that's excellent. I know you have two separate practices, and one is Carter Law Firm, and one is Venturis Law Firm. Tell us the difference.
So Venturis is I guess you can call it my day job. That's a traditional legal practice where we focus on business law, intellectual property, social media law, flash mob law, trademarks, patents, all of that. Your traditional IP boutique firm. I love it over there. And then I also have Carter Law Firm, which is the firm I use for all of my professional speaking and writing opportunities.
Okay, and you do a lot of those, right?
Yes, I do.
You are booked all the time from what I could tell.
Yes, I actually had to take this summer off from traveling because I was on the road so much, but I am already gearing up for this fall and winter and even next spring.
We're lucky to get Ruth, for sure.
Absolutely. Let's get to business here. Let's talk about children on social media and what the consequences are and what the dangers are.
You know, when you talk to parents, and I remember being a child myself, always talking about stranger danger and don't talk to strangers and things like that. But then we turn around and what are our kids doing online? They're talking to strangers, whether it's, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. And it's not just about who your children are trying to talk to, but also who is trying to talk to your child. And so I tell every parent, wherever your kid is going online, you should be there too and keeping an eye on both what they're doing, because there's a lot of learning experiences and opportunities for them about online etiquette, but also watching for who is trying to talk to your child.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And the thing of it is, too, is, you can tell a child in the real world, if a stranger walks up to you, don't go with them. But what happens when they become friends with a stranger and all of a sudden that's not a stranger anymore? It's a friend I've been talking to for 6 months online. How do you deal with that?
I would ask that child, what do you really know about this person? All you know is what they've told you. And it could be that everything they've said is a lie, that they're a different age, gender, location, everything about it. And you look at like those To Catch a Predator TV shows where the adults were trying to make connections with people that they thought were young children. This is the reverse, only in the real world, where there may be somebody posing as a 15-year-old boy, but is actually someone in their 20s who is trying to get to your child to take advantage of them in some way.
How young do you think a child should be before you tell them this information so it sinks in?
I think stranger danger should start the second the kid can, walk, because you're not going to be able to control them all the time. And now, since we have the internet, we have to expand that conversation, not just from who are you talking to in the real world, but as your child is becoming active online or texting with friends, talking to them about, okay, what is and is not appropriate and safe.
Ruth, let me ask you about, are there legal problems that kids can get themselves into on the internet?
Of course.
Like
any problem that an adult could have. Just because you're a child does not absolve you from the law. You may find yourself running into problems where you're going to be accused of something like maybe copyright infringement if you're using photos that you shouldn't be, defamation if you're telling lies about people. I could even see a situation where someone is accused of some type of online harassment if they are engaging in some type of cyberbullying activity. The repercussions may be slightly different if you are a child in the way it's addressed. But in terms of whether it's right or wrong, the law doesn't change because you are under 18.
So you can actually get into legal trouble if you were 10 years old and cyberbullying somebody.
Potentially, yes.
And that's really good information for people to understand and to transmit to their kids.
I would hope the conversation would be, let's teach your children about the proper way to communicate with somebody and having empathy, because when you are communicating online or through text messages, you don't get to see the face of the person you're hurting. And on the flip side, the person who is being targeted can never fully get away from the people who are bullying them. Unlike when I was a child and we could, go home at the end of the day and hide in our rooms, you don't necessarily have that. I think it's an important conversation to have early and often about what is the appropriate way to communicate with others, even on a social level.
And how about just don't bully people? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, apparently you haven't walked through a middle school recently or don't remember being there yourself.
Oh, I've been there, I know. I wish for a better world.
I know you're a geek and not a suit. Tell me the difference.
That's just who I am. I am a geek at heart. I've been watching sci-fi and loving tech since I was, a teen myself. And so my legal career just parlayed my love of geekdom and technology and social media. I can't conform to the stereotypical lawyer persona. It's not who I am.
I know
Wonderful.
that. And we're going to go over some of your blogging information.
So the best way to find me if you're online, either through venjuris.com or geeklawfirm.com. And for people who are on Twitter, I am at RB Carter.
Perfect. I like geeklawfirm.com. I think that's the one I would go to. Sounds like fun.
That's a good one.
It is. Okay, you had said on your website that there is no expectation of privacy in anything you post on the internet. Can you go forth on that?
Absolutely. There is no expectation of privacy in anything you do in public or anything that you post on the internet, regardless of your privacy settings. So don't think just because you posted it friends only that you have an expectation of privacy, because it's just too easy for somebody to download it, repost it, retweet it, share it out. So yeah, regardless of what you think, assume that everybody can see everything you post online.
Oh my God. Repeat that for me, please. That is like critical. Could you just repeat that, Ruth, please?
Assume that everybody can see everything you post online, and assume that applies forever. So what was today's funny idea or justified anger may be tomorrow's regret.
And you might end up in Tasmania somewhere on some porn site and not even know it,
It can happen. It has happened.
You have 2 rules of thumb.
I do. My 2 rules of thumb that I use for myself and for most people, following these rules keeps them out of trouble most of the time. So my first rule is, don't post anything on the internet that you wouldn't put on the front page of the newspaper. My second rule is, assume that everything you post online will be seen by 4 people: your best friend, your worst enemy, your boss, and your mother.
Oh my.
If you don't want one of those people to see what you're thinking about putting out there, don't post it.
Oh my.
So, Russ, you're in trouble.
What are those 4 again? I'm trying to write them down quickly, and I repeat. This is critical. Man, this stuff is critical. Go ahead, real
All
quick.
right. Assume 4 people will see everything you post on the internet: your best friend, your worst enemy, your boss, and your mother. If you don't want one of those 4 people seeing what you're thinking about posting, don't put it out there, because once it goes out, you may never be able to fully take it back.
That is
Right.
great. Isn't that great?
It is. And, the thing of it is, too, and it's harder for kids to think about the future, but for adults, future job interviews, future political campaigns, or whatever your future spouses, think about it in that sense as well, right?
Absolutely. I have had to read the Riot Act to a 13-year-old who was posting things online, not thinking about the consequences of it. When I brought it out of, okay, you don't have a job, but who's your favorite teacher? What would they say if you saw this? What about trying to get a job, trying to go to college? And that's when it really hit home for him. And I said, what if someone had posted what you put out there, but posted it about your mother? And I think that's when he really started to understand that there can be long-lasting implications to what people post online and how much harm you can do, even if you thought in the moment that what you were posting was funny.
Right. And there's insurance for companies now, isn't there, to protect them from cyber boo-boos, so to speak?
There is cyber liability insurance, yes. That's often used by people who are at risk of being hacked. That would cover things like notifying everybody that their information may have been compromised, offering to pay for credit monitoring for a year, doing reputational damage control, even for small companies, which according to my source, that it's mostly small companies who are getting hacked, not these big targets, even though companies like Target have been hacked, but they're not the only ones who are dealing with these types of problems.
Is that more often the smaller companies? Or?
According to my source, yes.
Wow.
So I tell anybody who collects information as part of their business to consider getting a quote for cyber liability insurance.
That's sad and good at the same time that we're in that place that we need cyber insurance.
Exactly.
Wow.
I'm not a geek. I'm the farthest thing from a geek, but this is really interesting and so topical. Alex?
Okay, well, there's another thing that a lot of people may not have even heard of, but it's out there and it's kind of important to touch on. It's called revenge porn.
It is a legal issue. It's usually a situation where a couple creates intimate videos or photos during the relationship, and then at the end of the relationship or whenever someone feels like it, they post it online without one of the other party's consent. So, and it's a situation where once it goes out there, it's sometimes hard to take it down because it can spread so quickly. And I've seen situations where people didn't realize that their intimate photos were out there until it was brought to their attention by family members or their employer and things like that.
So is there litigation that you can do to stop the person from continuing, or is there really nothing that can be done?
These are hard cases to deal with because sometimes it's a challenge to figure out who posted it. But several states have passed laws against revenge porn. Arizona did pass a law. It was a felony. The law is currently suspended, but in Arizona, we still have laws against cyber harassment and privacy protection laws. So there are still other ways to pursue these issues. But like I said, once something goes out there, it can be hard to take it down. So especially if it's a situation where the website that's hosting the image or video is out of country. Oftentimes, they can just ignore anything that we can try to do.
Okay. Let's go back to kids for a second, because I just want, for parents who are out there listening, what are the sites that kids are on right now that they should maybe be monitoring? They may not even know these sites exist. I know Facebook, but what about some of the others the kids are on?
So my rule for parents is pay attention to where your kids are going online. There should be no issue with you standing over your child's shoulder while they're on the internet and showing you, hey, where are you going? Tell me about this Facebook or Snapchat or Twitter or Pinterest or Instagram. And parents should be able to take their child's phone at any time and open it up and look at all the apps that they've downloaded and see all the pictures and all their text messages. And I am an advocate for child privacy and letting your teen have some privacy, but not to the level where they are maybe doing things and getting themselves into trouble without your knowledge. So I don't think any child should be able to put an app on their phone without their parents' permission, just because it's important for parents to know where are your kids going? Who are they talking to? What are they saying in text messages? Who are they texting? And so that they could open their phone and say, hey, who is this friend Chris? Tell me about this person. And have their kid explain, oh, this is somebody I met at, through school or at ballet or drama class. And so parents are just aware of who is in your child's social circle.
Well, you must be an expert because you're an advocate for kids and you're an advocate for adults. And you're merging the two together and helping both. I mean, that's just awesome.
I am an advocate for people behaving themselves.
Oh, there you go.
That's nice.
And taking responsibility for their actions.
I didn't say it as well as you did, Ruth.
That's concise and well put. I mean, again, making the world a better place. I mean, it's a simple statement, but it's really a wonderful statement.
That's what this show's about.
That's right. That's right. We have only a few minutes here left, I think, but let's talk about your flash mob. You are in one, or you co-founded one?
Yes.
Tell us quickly about that.
I'm a co-founder of Improv AZ. It's an organization that does flash mobs and pranks here in the Phoenix area.
Interesting.
And if you call in, I will send you a free book called Flash Mob Law by none other than our guest. And I have other books from Ruth that we purchased, and they are, even though I don't know what's going on about all this stuff, they are really interesting. Yeah. Ruth, you write interesting material.
Thank you.
It's very neat.
Well, what I love about you, Ruth, is that you're passionate about this stuff, and you're passionate about it because you love it, obviously.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
Mm-hmm. A self-described geek. I mean, you must love the computer, blogging, all these things. It's just part of your passion.
Exactly. There is no difference between where me, the person, ends and me, the professional, begins. It's all me. It's everything I love.
Well, social media, absolutely, but there's something else that's social, and they're called flash mobs. And we just touched on it, but you are the co-founder of a flash mob here in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. Now, have you participated in this mob?
Of course. I think that my last check, I think I have participated in 20 flash mobs total in my lifetime.
That's magnificent. All here in Arizona, or?
Most here in Arizona, but one was when I was at South by Southwest in Texas.
I don't know anything about flash mobs. I have the book right in front of me, and I'll send you one if you call in, but tell us what it is, please.
Most people have seen a flash mob on YouTube. It is an unexpected public performance meant to surprise and entertain an unsuspecting audience. So this is the people who are dancing in the street or riding the subway in their underpants, or suddenly you find yourself in a Living Where's Waldo game. Those types of things are flash mobs.
And you wrote the book on the law, the flash mob law.
Yes, I did.
I'm holding it in my hand. I'm just shocked. Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, it's shocking that there has to be laws for flash mobs, but obviously there are. Before we touch on that, though, you were selected as legal rebel by the American Bar Association in 2012. How did that happen?
So the American Bar Association has the Legal Rebel group, and they award it to 10 people every year. You can only be selected once. So for many people, it is a lifetime achievement award. And it is to acknowledge lawyers who are innovative in the field of law. So they selected me in 2012 for my work in flash mob law. I was actually surprised when I got selected because I had only had a bar license for 7 months. And I really didn't feel like I had done anything worth being acknowledged for it. They were like, nope, you're being innovative. You're being special. We want to acknowledge you for creating this new niche practice because no one's really ever done it before. And I don't think anyone's really done it since.
Mm-hmm. And it's all because you're passionate about it.
Absolutely. I started doing flash mobs when I was in law school. So I had to make sure that I wasn't doing anything before I became a lawyer that would prevent me from becoming a lawyer. Mm-hmm. So I'd been studying the legal issues of these types of performances for literally years before I was ever able to advise clients on these issues.
Well, how do you do the research on something that's never been done? There goes my mind again.
That's a good question.
It is challenging because I'm basically my group's designated killjoy. So they come up with these awesome ideas of pranks and flash mobs they want to do. And I'm the one that has to sit there and think, how many ways could this go wrong? And I have to think about what could we be accused of doing wrong and what could we actually be doing wrong, and try to take steps to mitigate those risks, both as the organizers and when we give instructions to our participants about the do's and don'ts of whatever we're going to be doing that day.
Remember, if you need a patent, any kind of intellectual property, copyright, trademark, please call Ruth, okay?
Absolutely. So can you just kind of give us a brief outline of flash mob law for people who want to do it and want to do it correctly without getting in trouble?
Think about your ideas from the perspective of a cranky old person. I don't mean
Oh,
to.
me? You're talking about me now?
I'm not dissing old people, but they're the ones who tend to be more vocal. Like, think about like the two old guys on the Muppets. What would they say about what you're thinking about doing? And think about, where are we going to be? Whose property are we going to be on? What type of activity are we asking people to do? This is when you look at the Arizona criminal statutes, or there's been a couple of times I've actually called the Phoenix Police Department for input. Like one time we were thinking about, could we be parking meter fairies and dress up in tutus and fairy wings and feed people with expired parking meters? Well, we had to go look at the city rules to see, because in some cities that's absolutely permissible, but in other cities that's illegal. So you have to kind of just ferret out these do's and don'ts based on your specific situation.
Oh, Ruth is the expert on ferries and parking meters, for sure.
Well, actually, what a super idea. I mean, a great place to start. Talk to the police. Ask them.
It's fun to ask them random questions, and they're like, wait, what? What are you calling us about? And it gets really interesting.
But, you have to start somewhere, and getting your book is absolutely a great way for people who are serious about flash mobs. Because is there even any other book out there on the planet that deals with this?
On the legal issues, not that I've seen.
Yeah, so it's Flash Mob Law by Ruth Carter, the legal side of planning and participating in pillow fights, no pants rides, and other shenanigans. What's pillow fights?
Okay, you were a child once, right?
Absolutely.
You've had a pillow fight sometime in your life, right?
Yep.
Okay, well, what happens when several dozen or several thousand people get together and start hitting each other with pillows? What kind of legal issues come up with that? And I've seen it where it's gone off, no problem. I've seen other situations where it was disastrous. In San Francisco, they learned the hard way. It's not a good idea to have a pillow fight on a rainy day because the feathers and they have a pillow fight every Valentine's Day at Justin Herman Plaza. Thousands of people, like 6 hours of pillow fighting. My arms would be tired after 5 minutes. I don't know how these guys do it. But it was a rainy night, and wet feathers clogged storm drains and flooded businesses and caused damage to fountains. They did approximately $30,000 worth of damage in one pillow fight. And then there was another pillow fight where a woman learned the hard way. It's not a good idea to hit a police officer with your pillow. They tend to call that assault.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Alex, you were going to ask another. There's so much information. My head's going to explode.
Yeah, I think Russ is about to pop here.
Yeah, I really am.
Tell us about something you participated on the light rail.
Oh, I've done it every year since 2009. That would be the annual No Pants Light Rail Ride. And this actually happens all over the world on the same day, but we happen to organize the one here in Phoenix, Improv AZ does. And we ride the light rail where from the waist up, we're totally normal. Waist down, underwear and shoes in January. So sometimes it's a little bit chilly. And the looks we get from people when suddenly several dozen people around them aren't wearing pants is awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. You're not the typical lawyer, that's for sure.
No, that's for sure.
If somebody, let's just say, wants to do a flash mob, I mean, do you do consultation over the phone, or do they need to make an appointment? How would they go about getting good advice from you?
Definitely you want to schedule a consultation so we can really take time and sit down and talk about all your ideas, all the possible issues that may arise with your ideas. I have done it by phone when necessary.
Okay, great. And your contact information, again, just for those folks who might be interested.
Best way to find me, look me up at venjuris.com or geeklawfirm.com.
Our guest today, Ruth Carter, attorney at law, and we're going over everything about social media. Alex?
Yes, we're trying to cover it anyway. We're going to go back to the risks that we take when we put stuff out there to our jobs.
So like I said, you have to assume that everything you post on the internet is going to be seen by your boss. And if you are an at-will employee, you can be sued, or not be sued, you can be fired for any reason or no reason at all. So theoretically, you could be fired from your job for something you posted online, even if that post had nothing to do with your job. If your boss didn't like it. And there have been situations where a person has been fired because of a single tweet, a single post. It happens on a semi-regular basis.
Are bosses monitoring social media?
I think it depends on who is your boss and how much are they paying attention. You never know if someone's just going to bring a post that you did, a screenshot or a printout of your Facebook page to your boss and say, did you see what so-and-so posted over the weekend? So even if they're not monitoring it on an ongoing basis, it only takes one person to bring it to their attention before something you did in your personal life where no laws are being broken and you weren't acting as a representative of your company, that you could still face repercussions professionally.
It's kind of sad in a way, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, and it's how it's always been. Just nowadays, because there is no expectation of privacy in what you post online, if you post what you maybe used to only tell your neighbor, where there wouldn't be anything documented of what you said, if you're posting that on Facebook where anyone can see it, well, then you have to assume that everybody saw it.
Dun, 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 dun.
Exactly.
Tell us about Has Justine Landed?
So there was a internet fiasco. Hashtag Has Justine Landed Yet? This was a situation where Justine Sacco, I think I said her last name properly, just Google Has Justine Landed Yet? Tweeted something before getting on a 12-hour flight. She was on her way to South Africa, and she put up a thoughtless tweet. And at the time, she only had 188 followers, I believe. And her tweet was something about, I'm off to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, ha ha ha, I'm white. I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that's so offensive. I mean, maybe she had jet lag, maybe she thought, her small group of followers might think it was funny. I don't know what she was thinking when she posted that tweet. But she put that tweet out there and then got on an airplane where she didn't have internet connection for 12 hours. By the time she landed, remember, her tweet only went out to 188 followers. By the time she landed, the internet hated her. She was fired from her job. By the way, she was the director of communications of her company.
My God.
The internet hated her. People were at the airport, waiting to take pictures of her. Something.
Or kill her.
People were making death threats against her. This horrible. And if you Google her name, all this comes up about her. So she was fired from this job, but I bet it impacted her ability to get the next job. And even things like dating. I mean, if you're interested in somebody, what's the first thing you do? You put their name into the internet and see what pops up. This is probably going to be following her around for a long time.
Scary, really.
One that was on Twitter.
That was on Twitter.
Folks, you have to listen to Ruth here. I mean, I've never heard of any of this. I mean, I'm a newbie, I guess. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, you're a newbie. But, this whole thing kind of gives the term goody two-shoes a better slant because you just don't want to be a bad person out on the internet. It's going to bite you in the butt.
It can. You have to be willing to own whatever you say in every situation, potentially for the rest of your life. And so if you are going to be bold and outspoken, you better be willing to be that bold and outspoken in person as you are when you're protected behind your screen or thinking that you're protected behind your screen.
The stories are great, don't you think? Do you have a bullying story or something that was about bullying? Or?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
This was years ago. This was back in the MySpace days. But this was the first story that comes to mind when I think about bullying. It was a situation where a girl was befriended by a boy on MySpace, and they were interacting for a while. They didn't know each other in real life. And one day he messaged her and said that she's a bad person and she should kill herself. And she actually committed suicide. It turns out this wasn't a boy that she was interacting with. It was the mother of one of her friends created this fake profile. And this isn't the first situation where someone was told through social media, go kill yourself, and they actually committed suicide. Yeah. So these are the types of things that really happen. And so this was an adult posing as a child, telling another child to kill themselves. She committed suicide. And this woman was actually prosecuted, found not guilty, but prosecuted for her actions. Another interesting thing about social media is in this situation, both the girl who died and the mother, both were, I believe, in Missouri. She was charged criminally in California because that's where the server was for the website. You have to also think about whose laws apply. It's, where you live, where they live, maybe where the server is. And so it gets complicated very quickly.
Sure does. And that is a super great story for parents to tell their kids, because if you think some kid is telling you you're not a good person or go kill yourself, it might just be some rotten old adult. Great story for kids to know and understand about it, maybe not take it so seriously.
Absolutely. And it's so hard for kids just because of the way that they are developing to ignore these situations. So it's so important if a child is being targeted for any type of bullying situation, that they have support in their life somewhere that they can latch on to, get the love and the attention from family and friends, even if they're not getting it at school, so that they are protected. And if there is an issue, don't hide from it. Definitely deal with it appropriately. And that may involve going to the school, going to the police, talking to a lawyer. A book I recommend everyone read is called The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker. I think every child should get it for their 15th birthday present.
I agree.
And then he has other books for parents on how to protect your children. So he's somebody, I am not a paid spokesperson for Gavin DeBecker, but I love him so much. He sends me free books in the mail.
He's right on, and I agree. Women especially should read it, but all people should read that book.
I've never heard of him.
You got to read it, Russ.
Okay, let's plug it again.
Gavin DeBecker, The Gift of Fear. And any of his books, really. He has another book called Protecting the Gift for parents, teaching them how to better protect their children.
Lovely.
And it said Gavin?
Gavin DeBecker.
Okay. Gavin, if you're out there, call Russ on the Radio or go to russontheradio@gmail.com. Drop me a line. I will put you on this show.
We'd love it. Let's talk about, you'll give a seminar or a talk about social media horror stories. Is that correct?
It is. This is a talk I've given several times. I did it for the Arizona Tech Council, and I'm going to be doing it in November at the Ungagged conference in Las Vegas. It's called Social Media Horror Stories and How to Avoid the Same Fate. So basically, we look at situations like the bullying stories I told and the Has Justine Landed Yet, and other situations that have come up through social media where somebody has been bitten in the butt, and how we can learn from that so that people don't have to repeat the same mistakes in terms of their copyrights, their trademarks, their contracts, defamation, privacy, working with independent contractors, all those types of issues.
Because your philosophy is prevention versus cleaning up the mess.
Absolutely. It is so much easier to prevent these problems than to have to clean up the mess that results when people don't do it right the first time.
So it's just like your health. Your legal life is just like your health. Prevention is worth a pound of cleaning up the mess.
Exactly.
I think it was said differently. That's pretty good.
I also wanted to ask you, when you do give these speeches, you said you get a lot of questions. Sometimes you don't have to talk very much at all. What are some of the types of questions you get, just briefly?
You name it, I get it. I get a lot of questions if I'm talking to a social media content creator blogging community. I get tons of questions about photographs. Where can I get photos I can use? What do I do if someone's using, ripping off my photo or ripping off my post? Am I allowed to post pictures of children? How do I use photos from my events on my blog? Like if it's a business, they have an event, they want to use the photographs. How do I deal with all that? Do I need to register my trademark? Things like that.
We are coming to the end of this. Ruth, thank you very much. You are welcome anytime, and I wish you'd come back because we missed a lot of stuff. I know we did.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to be back anytime.
Great. This is Russ on the Radio. You're listening to Independent Talk, 1100 KFNX. Today we learned the legal do's and don'ts of using social media from Ruth Carter, attorney at law.